For many years, one of the distinguishable traits of Modern is Burn being in the metagame. And one of the namesake cards of Burn was Eidolon of the Great Revel. This is a 2-mana enchantment creature that reads, whenever a player casts a spell with converted mana cost 3 or less, Eidolon of the Great Revel deals 2 damage to that player. And Eidolon was the face of Burn because the idea of interacting with Burn meant cheap spells, and Eidolon completely punishes anyone who plays any cheap spells. But with the power level of Modern rising, many Burn players have written this once great card off. As you can see in this 18th place Modern Challenge deck list, there are 0 Eidolons in the 75. And while one might wonder why Eidolon is no longer a powerful card in Modern, even though this is one of the most efficient Modern formats in the history of Modern, is because of 3 cards. The 3 cards that have nullified the power of Eidolon are Ragavan, Fury, and Solitude. With Fury and Solitude being just clean answers to the card because they cost 5 mana and they're free spells, Ragavan is a completely different story. This is because Burn is traditionally known as the aggro deck, but this creature can steal all of their spells and become the aggro deck themselves. And in addition to stealing, it also ramps you, which allows you to be more on parity with this deck and use all of your spells before you're dead. This is so important because in the past, Burn's card advantage was just killing your opponent, and now with Ragavan and many of the free spells, decks can just keep up with the Burn deck and use all of their cards before they die. And this is why in today's video, we're going to be cutting Eidolon of the Great Revel from the Burn list and trying out this list that got 18th place in the Modern Challenge. Match number 1, we're on the draw with a fine hand. Opponent plays out a land into a bauble, into another one. You draw a Sunbaked Canyon, we'll run that out. Play Goblin Guide, attack in for 2. An opponent gets an Ottawara in the hand, and then bolts our Goblin Guide. Opponent plays out a land into a Ragavan. We find a bolt. We do have to try and kill this Ragavan. They have a Spell Pierce. We cannot pay, and we'll just bolt it again. They find an EI, exiling a land. They just play that out and pass. We find a Blaze. We'll go Lava Spike and cast a Skewer. Opponent plays out another EI, exiling another land. Find a Canyon. We'll crack our first one. Find another Blaze. Opponent plays out a Shredder. Does nothing else. Find a Skullcrack, so we'll play a Searing Blaze. And they have a Spell Snare. We'll just let that go. Cast another EI. In response, we will Skullcrack them. They exile a Bolt, then bolt us, conniving away a Heat. And they bop us for 2. Find an Islet. We'll crack a Sunbaked Canyon. Find a Helix. And Searing Blaze the bird, just dealing the 3 damage to them. They counter that. And there's the 4th EI. They exile a Murktide. Then they connive, gain a +1 on the bird. They bop us down to 9. And then they play a DRC. We draw a Mesa. We'll crack Islet. Yep, and we're just dead here. No outs for us. So let's go on to sideboarding. Gonna take out 4 Skullcracks, a Play with Fire, a Helix, and a Rift Bolt for Vortex, Sanctifier, and a Blood. Starting hand's a little land light, but I'm gonna risk it. We'll fetch out a Sacred Foundry, lead on Goblin Guide. An opponent reveals an island off the guide. They play out land into DRC. Back in for another 2. They reveal a counter spell. We'll suspend a Rift Bolt and pass. They run out another land, attack us for 1, and they're holding up counter spell. We'll Rift Bolt them. They counter it, bending a land. We find a Sanctifier. Would be good if we found another land. Attack in for 2. They reveal land, and we'll suspend another bolt. They play out a tapped land, attack us for 1. We'll Rift Bolt them again. And they have a counter for that one. They keep the card on top. No land still for us. Attack in for 2. They reveal Heat. We'll spike them down to 9. And if we find a land, I think this game's over, but that's a big if. Play out land into Shredder. Eat our guide. We're gonna connive away the Scalding Tarn we knew about. Attack us down to 14. And no land for us. I don't cast out another Shredder into a Consider. They connive away Unholy Heat and a land. And we're down to 12. We find a spike, we'll just fire it off, and they Spell Pierce that. That's just going to be game. We have no way of really winning here. Even if you find a land, they're just going to kill us too quickly. So let's get into match number 2. On the draw for match number 2 with another 1-lander, but this one has Play with Fire, so we can at least scry. And looks like we're up against Hammer. We find a land, we'll fetch out a mountain and cast our guide. And they reveal Stoneforge. They play out Ink Moth into a Springleaf Drum, attack us for 1, and just pass. We find a Swift Spear, we'll play that out. Attack in for 3. They reveal Clearing, and we will bolt them. Opponent's down to 11. Opponent plays out a Clearing, into a Pure Steel, into an Ornithopter, into a Colossus Hammer. They equip the Sentinel, attack us for 11. We find a land. We'll attack them with both. They reveal Saga, and we just need them to not block one of them, but if they double block, we are dead. Yep, and they find the line. So we're going to scoop them up and get on to sideboarding. We're bringing all of these for all these. Game 2, no lands, so we got them all. Our 6 is a lot better. We'll just put back a Charm. Shotgun Foundry, cast our guide. Swing in for 2. Revealing a Sentinel. Plays Ink Moth and Night into an Ornithopter, into a Sentinel. We find a Bolt. We'll attack in for 2. And we reveal Shadow Spear. They take the 2. We'll take this time to cast our Rolling Vortex, giving the opponent a card. Opponent plays out of planes into an aid, and they have a hammer, and we also know they have a Shadow Spear, and we're not going to beat this. They're going to gain 12, and yeah, we're just dead. Go on to match number 3. We're on the play for match number 3 with just 1 land, so we got to put it back. Our 6 also only has 1 land, but at least has a guide, so we'll keep. I'm going to put back Riftbolt, go land in the guide, pop in for 2. It looks like we're up against enchantments. They go Forest and Utopia Sprawl. We find a land, attack in for 2, revealing Hallowed Haunting, and we'll just spike them and skewer them. They cast out an Oblivion Ring, taking our Goblin Guide. Find another Charm. Wow, they cast a Phyrexian Unlife, so I guess we will Boros Charm them. Finding a Helix. This is just going to be a rough league for us today, isn't it? And then they cast out a Hallowed Haunting. We'll Boros Charm them, putting them down to 0. Find a land, pass after that. Cast out a Sithis, getting a 1/1, and cast a Sanctum Weaver. In response, we will Boros Charm them. And we find a Skullcrack, which is actually quite good off the top. Ooh, an opponent has a Solitary Confinement. Well, this is quite a good one. I'm not sure if we can beat this card. Guess we have to Helix the Sith this year. But I'm not sure if we can even beat this because they're going to have enough damage to kill us quite quickly. Yeah, and this is just going to kill us fast enough. So we're going to scoop them up and get down to sideboarding. We'll take out 4 Rift Bolts and a Play with Fire for 2 Bloods and 3 Vortex. Game 2, our hand is just a little too slow. It doesn't have any sideboard cards, so we'll put it back. And our 6 is much better. We'll just spin a land. Oh no, they have a Leyline of Sanctity. Yeah, this is just a rough league for us. We'll play out Swiftspear and attack them for 1. Find a land. We'll just play that out and attack them for 1 again. They find a Stomping Ground in our instep. They run out of Sterling Grove. We'll Fetch Shock and crack this now. Just try and find another creature to play. We find a guide, play out the guide, attack in for 3. They reveal a presence, and they cast out the presence. We find a Helix. We'll fetch out a mountain, Helix ourselves, and attack them for 4. They get a Temple Garden off the top. They cast out another Grove. We find a Skullcrack off the top, attack them for 3 again. On their end step, they crack a Grove, finding an Onthanice. Yep, and they play a set this. This is going to keep drawing them a bunch of cards, gain them life. We are not allowed to push this or interact with this anyway because of a Shroud. We have to Skullcrack ourselves in response, but pretty sure that the game's just over here. Let a tap land, growth one of their lands, drawing 3 cards, and they discard a Confinement. Oof. We'll play out our land, attack them for 2, and we're just going to scoop it up here. There is no way we're ever winning this game, so we'll just go on to match number 4. Match number 4, we're on the draw with a Landlight hand, so we're gonna mull. Another Landlight hand, but at least has Goblin Guide, so we'll keep. We'll just put back our Riftbolt. Oh, it leads on Floodstrand into Sacred Foundry. Playing out a Ragavan. We find a land, shock this in and just hold up Bolt. Or it attacks us, and we'll just Bolt the Ragavan. And they run out of Triome. Play out a guide, attack the opponent for 2. They reveal Kavu. Looks like we're up against Sue. And we'll just suspend a Riftbolt. They fetch out a basic forest and play a Rallier, putting a Ragman on the field. And with the Riftbolt, we'll just go face, find a Charm. We'll just skewer them twice though, and they're down to 5. And we're not going to attack with the guide. We'll try and trade off with Rag, or make them use a removal spell on it. They just go to a combat, attack with Rag, we'll block. And they cast an Eldritch Evolution. Getting an Omnath? Oh my god. Oh, no land, let's go. And Play with Fire is enough to deal 5 to them. Bottom of Swiftspear, and then Bolt face. Wow, we should not have won that. All right, let's go on to sideboarding. Gonna bring in 3 Vortex and 3 Palms for Play with Fire, Helix, and 3 Bolts. For game 2, our hand's a little slow, but I'm gonna keep it. Opponent goes turn 1 tap land. We find a Bolt, we'll lead on Goblin Guide, hit them for 2. Revealing an Overgrown Tomb. Opponent fetch shocks and plays out a Sign of Draco. Find another guide. And we'll just hold back here and use a Boros Charm. Opponent plays out a land and attacks in for 4. And then casts an Eldritch Evolution. Oh no. Atraxa. Well, we definitely aren't beating this card if it sticks around. And they reveal a few cards, Flusterstorm, Ragavan, lands, etc. So we'll just fetch out a land and Boros Charm them on the instep. Hopefully we can find either a Skullcrack or a Roiling Vortex. And we just find a land here, and we can only deal 7 damage at the max, so opponent's got us here. Let's get on to game number 3. For game 3, no land hands, we got a mull, and our 6 is pretty fantastic. And we'll just spin the Searing Blaze. We'll lead on Mountain here, play out our Swiftspear. Opponent fetch shocks, and plays out a Ragavan. We find a Charm, we'll bolt the Rag, and Lava Spike them. Attack in for 3, and they're down to 10. Oh, never mind, they have a Solitude. Opponent just plays out another Ragavan into an Overgrown Tomb. We find a land, we'll run out Vortex. Vortex triggers on the upkeep, they're down to 12. Ragavan hits us and exiles a Goblin Guide. They cast out our guide and a Territorial Kavu. We're down to 17. We find a Skullcrack. We'll just pass back to the opponent. They're down to 11. Goblin Guide reveals a Skullcrack on top of our deck. Kavu triggers, they draw and discard. And they discard an Eldritch. We're down to 8. And they Skullcrack us. Play a tapped land and pass, so we'll fetch out a mountain. Boros Charm the opponent. And we're gonna need to hit a bolt off the top here. And it's another Sunbaked Canyon. So we will crack one of them. We find a Searing Blaze, which is not going to do it. Opponent got us here. Going to match number 5. Match 5, we are on the draw with a no lander, so we got a mole. Our 6 is a little slow, but we will keep it, and we'll put back a helix. Opponent reveals Chancellor, plays out of plains, lands a fine draw, we'll just play out mountain and pass. Except they cast a Force of Vigor, exile a Chancellor. Then they play a Pendlehaven and a Squadron Hawk. We are in the sauce. Yep, and they get 3 more Hawks. We find a spike, so we will use it, and we'll pay for the Chancellor. And they cast out another Force on our end step. Means they have a pretty quick clock here. Play out another Hawk, and attack us down to 16. Find advantage, we'll run that out, spike the opponent, and hold up Boros Charm or Skullcrack. Opponent plays out a land and attacks us for 6, and plays the 3rd Hawk out. So we'll Boros Charm the opponent, and we're gonna have to figure out how to win here. Another Canyon, so we'll crack 1. Searing Blaze is actually a great draw, so we will blaze one of the Hawks, keeping us alive and taking the opponent down to 7. If they tap this Canyon, we do have lethal. Oh, but they had a Sokinzan, great play. Yep, and we're just dead. Let's go down to sideboarding. We'll bring in 2 Searing Bloods for 2 Rift Bolts. Game number 2, our hand's just a little too weak, so we're gonna put this back. Our 6 is a little land light, but if we find a land, this hand's great. And we'll put back a Skullcrack, get a land guide, and they reveal a Squadron Hawk. Opponent goes Vantage into Ragavan, and no land for us. We'll just play out another guide, back in for 4. They reveal another Hawk and block with the Ragavan. They cast out a Shining Shoal, killing both of our Goblin Guides. Rough. Exiling a Hawk to do so. They bop in for 2 with Ragavan, exiling a Rift Bolt, and cast out an Esper Sentinel into a Pendlehaven. Find a land, and we'll just pass their upkeep. And the upkeep will Searing Blood the Ragavan. They draw a card off Esper Sentinel, and they take 3. Attack us for 1, and then play out a Squadron Hawk. Grabbing 2 more Hawks. Find a land, we'll play that out and pass, holding up Charm and Bolt. Go to combat, attack us for 2. Play another Hawk, play a land and pass, so we'll just Boros Charm them. And in response, they Pendlehaven the Esper Sentinel, not allowing us to pay 1, so we'll just bolt them in response to that as well. They draw a card, and they're down to 6. Searing Blaze is a fine draw. We'll crack one of the canopies, finding a helix. We'll just pass. And they cast Athalia, so we have to bolt them in response. They draw a card off a Sentinel, and they're down to 3. They round another Sentinel, and attack in for 3. And we find a land, so we'll go for a Lightning Helix. Opponent gets to draw 2. Wow, and we actually won that one. All right, let's get into game 3. Game 3, our hand's just a little too clunky here. This all 2 drops, so we got a mole. Our 6 is way better. We'll put back a Lava Spike. Opponent goes turn 1, fetch Shock, and plays out a Ragavan. We'll play out Advantage, and just bolt this. Just resolves. On our end step, they cast a Force of Virtue, exiling a Squadron Hawk, and then play an Esper Sentinel. We draw a land, we'll run out Guide, attack in for 2, and we give them a land, sad. No blocks from them, we'll just play out a Foundry, play our Swift Spear. They attack us for 2, no blocks, and they play out another Sentinel. We find a Guide, play out a Guide, play our land, and attack in with both the Guides. And they reveal a Squadron Hawk off the top of their deck. Opponent blocks one of our Guides, and they're down to 13. Cast out a Squadron Hawk, picking up 2 more Hawks, and they just pass. We'll crack our canopy on their end step, finding a play with fire, and a Searing Blaze. We'll use Searing Blaze to kill the Sentinel, and we're not going to pay. We'll fetch up a mountain and play with fire the Hawk, attack in for 5. An opponent reveals Athalia, and opponent plays land into Adeline. We find a blood, we'll attack the opponent with both, revealing a land off the top. They block the guide, we will helix them, and opponent scoops them up. We get our first win of the league, let's go! So overall, this burn list was definitely interesting to say the least. I think not running an Eidolon is a huge mistake. In all the games, I pretty much wanted them, especially against Murktide Region and Zoo. Like, that card is insanely powerful against both those decks. We did lose up against Hammer, but Hammer is one of those matchups that, like, you basically can never win anyways, so I'm not too concerned about that. But this list is definitely a flawed, and I think not running Eidolon is a huge mistake. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please consider leaving a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video.